Murphy at Murtech.com with your daily news update. All right, here we go. We're on July the 10th in the year of our Lord 2025. Got a lot of great information for you tonight. Let's go ahead and click over here on my Rumble link. The video that you're watching right now is episode 1619. Let's scroll down here and check out what we have. We have information from Alex Newman, Charlie Kirk, Dr. Steve Turley, and Doug in Exile. But before we get into that, I do want to give a shout out here to Fax Tackly. Just started following my channel. Hey K 1985 just started following my channel. Stone Max 1111 just started following my channel. And Medi Expert 78 just started following my channel. So thank you very much, folks, for following my channel. I greatly appreciate that. I hope you're tuned in, and I hope you enjoy the content. All right, Patio Furniture 63 gave me a comment on my episode 1616. Debbie BS gave me a comment on my episode 1617. Uncloudy gave me a comment on my episode 1618. Debbie BS commented on my extra 402B and 402C. And Medi Expert 78, or Media Expert 78, gave me a comment on my extra 404C. So thank you very much, folks, for your comments. I really enjoy reading your feedback and input, and I appreciate your support. So thank you very much. All right, let's get into this. Let's see what Alex Newman has to say. Exclusive Big Beautiful Bill 2.0 coming, says Senior Senator Tuberville. Let's see what this is all about. Let me get it back to the beginning for you.
Welcome back to the Sentinel Report. Alex Newman, your host here. Folks, the Communist Chinese are buying up huge amounts of our farmland, and it's not a new problem, but it is getting renewed attention on Capitol Hill. I, for one, am grateful for that. Joining us now to discuss is Senator Tommy Tuberville. He represents the great state of Alabama in the U.S. Senate, and he's been very active on this particular front. Senator, welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Alex. Yeah, I'm on the Ag Committee and the Armed Services Committee, so I understand the national security implications of this. So we got huge problems.
I agree. Yes, we do. So let's talk about the scope of the problem. How long has this been going on, and why do you see it as such a threat?
Well, it really picked up during the Biden administration. The problem that we had, and we saw through the Ag Committee, is basically the Biden administration they do not like our farmers. They want all of our food to come from other countries. They have been pushing this climate hoax, this nonsense about our weather's changing. They pushed all the input costs so high. Fertilizer tripled in price. The farm equipment almost doubled in price. So all the input costs were so high, there was no way farmers could make a living. They just couldn't break even, much less make any money. And so it was pretty much pressure from the administration to try to, hey, let's try to get all the farmers to sell. And so a lot of them started to sell. Listen, we lost 150,000 farms in the last 4 years and 25,000 farmers. We can't stand that. We have to be self-sufficient. We found out in COVID, we don't make drugs. My God, we don't need to get to a situation where we got to depend on other countries for our food. And so the Biden administration started putting pressure on farmers. They started selling out. Unfortunately, a lot of them started selling out to entities that had Chinese implications and Russia implications. And you can't blame the farmer because, they couldn't make a living, a lot of them, so they're selling out. And so it's putting us in a very tough bind. It's putting us in national security implications. And we've got to stop this nonsense. And President Trump understands it, and we're on the way to hopefully fixing the problem.
So let's talk about fixing the problem. What are some of the ways that Donald Trump can act here, and what are some of the ways that Congress can act to support our national security, to protect our farmers from these kinds of things, and ultimately to protect our national security?
Well, first of all, drill, baby, drill. We've gone from $5 a gallon of diesel to somewhere below, in some places under $3, which is a tremendous help because of all the diesel that these farmers use in their tractors and all their farm equipment. That's number one. The tariffs are going to help. We've tariffed things from all the way from Brazil to cotton, soybeans, all those things that President Trump's pushing tariffs on, all the way to catfish in Vietnam, shrimp in India, just so many things that they flood the market here with just junk, things that we shouldn't even be eating, putting in our bodies, comes from other countries when we have a much better product in this country, but they underprice it so much. For instance, catfish from Vietnam, they send in 3 billion pounds of this sewer-fed catfish to the United States, and they are running our catfish farmers out of business because we can't compete with the price. So many of those things can be done, Alex, with these tariffs. Thank God for President Trump understanding business and understanding our farmers. It's going to affect our farmers to some degree, but at the end of the day, in the long run, it's really going to help.
Yeah. So I just got back from the RCAP convention in South Dakota. This is the nation's independent cattle producers. And they talked about some of these regulations that came down during Biden, some of the ones that came down during Obama under the guise of saving us from climate change. Now, I've seen Donald Trump has been rolling back a lot of that. But even in the big, beautiful bill, I mean, a lot of these things have not yet been enshrined into federal law by Congress. What can Congress do to try to prevent something like what Joe Biden did, something like what Barack Obama did from happening again?
Yeah, Barack Obama put so many regulations on our farmers, and especially our cattle farmers or foresters, people that do things that really have affected them financially and, again, put them out of business. President Trump has got to stop, and he has already started this cutting back on all the regulations. There needs to be some rules that you have to go by, but it was really a bunch of nonsense what we were doing. We were forcing farmers to, if they had standing water or their fields, they couldn't plant a crop there because it was waters of the U.S. Just absolutely nonsense. And there's nobody, Alex, that takes care or believes in taking care of our land and our forest no more than our farmers and our foresters. Nobody. They're going to take care of the water. They understand if we don't have water, they can't survive. And so quit tying the farmer up to where they can't make a living. They can't actually make profits with the hard work and effort they put in. You got to remember, farmers can't control the weather, nor can they control the price. And so give them the opportunity to make the best possible crop they possibly can that is with less cost and less input. And if we can do that, we'll be able to save this country and even make better food and give a chance to be self-sufficient. If we have another COVID or if we have something, some kind of war, we've got to take care of ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, turning to the gender issue, I know for the moment there are now two genders once again at the federal level, thanks to the president. But this craziness is still going on. I spoke with your staff earlier today about a women's bicycle race that was actually won by a biological man pretending to be a woman. I know a lot of this stuff, it deals more with state policy, but what can Congress do? And I know you want to run for governor in Alabama. I know you've already announced. What can the state do to try to protect women's sports, to try to protect girls and their spaces from men invading?
Well, thank goodness in my state of Alabama, we've already passed a law and put a stop to this nonsense. You can't do it. I want you to think about this, Alex. We're getting ready to have, in 2 years, host the Summer Olympics in California. And if we continue down this road, we're going to have the biggest egg on our face of having all these transgender men participate in all these sports because the Olympic Committee is not going to do it. I mean, they don't have guts to do anything. Basically, they're run by Europe. We have got to make sure that when we have the Summer Olympics in LA in a couple of years, that it's fair and we have women that have an opportunity to win, not try to place second or third. We're going to ruin women's sports if we continue down this path. It makes no sense. And I'll tell you what happens. You know, the LGBTQ group on the Democratic side, that is their base of vote. And that's the reason most of them don't believe in men and women's sports. But if they were to bail out on the transgender group of participating in women's sports, they would start to lose their base. And it just shows you how crazy politics is. They don't believe in it, a lot of them, but they're going to allow it because they love the power. They love the vote. They love to be a congressman or senator. It's absolutely ridiculous of what we put up with up here. And President Trump's going to put an end to it.
So before we turn back to state level issues in Alabama in particular, now that the big beautiful bill is passed, signed into law, what's on Congress's agenda for the next few months?
Well, Congress, the House today will start a second big beautiful bill. We want to do another one by Christmas, and then we want to do another one by the 250th birthday party. President Trump will sign next July. And so there's a lot of things that we weren't able to get in this bill, although it's one of the biggest bills in the history of the country. And it's a great bill. Most of it was about the tax cuts. We all know that. It's going to save people a lot of money. Also the tax, and the seniors that don't have a job that get a Social Security check, there will be no more taxing that, which was absolutely insane that Joe Biden got done back in 1983 as a senator. It just, things go on, but we helped our farmers. We raised input reference prices, which they get a better price. If the price drops from the federal government, a lot of good things in this bill. But Alex, we have to start cutting now. There was some additions with the border money, with 50 to 75 billion more for the military. But at the end of the day, we have to start cutting back on this $37 trillion in debt, because your generation can't afford us to continue to pay $1 trillion a year on the debt that we have to pay because of these high interest rates.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about that. Obviously, there's been some criticism. Elon Musk has been really out front on the complaining about the spending. Do you guys in Congress have any plans to try to rein that in over the next year or two?
We cut some out of this, but we didn't get to the point because we couldn't get the bill passed if we continued down that path. That's the reason I think President Trump was exactly right. He went and told the House, hey, listen, you got to pass this bill. It's just the base of what we want to start to do. Even Dr. Oz came over and talking about Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Listen, we're going to make people go back to work. We're going to work standards. We're going to kick all the illegals out of Social Security, which, by the way, was 1.4 million. We were leaking all bad when it came to Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. But as he said, this is not enough. Let's get a base of where we're at. The next bill, we will address a lot more of it. And but we got to do it. We got no choice. And that's the reason I was really for this 150 billion for the wall and for the border. It's not. Let me explain to you. They explained it to us this way: $25 million per mile for the wall. Now, that's just not the wall, but it's technology. It's for the people that are going to work around that wall. It's going to be judges that are going to put people on trial down there when they come across, and either they can stay or can't stay. All the things that go along with it. We have to cut back on this illegal immigration because we can't afford it. It's costing us $70,000 per illegal a year for them to be here. What the Biden administration did to this country because of opening up the borders is criminal, absolutely criminal to the American taxpayer. So a lot of good things in the bill, but again, this we're going to start another one, and the next one will really address the deficit that we have, because if we don't address that, it's not going to make any difference. We don't have to worry about China, and we don't have to worry about any other country overtaking us. We're going to implode from within, and we got to do our due diligence and make sure we understand that this is a business we're running, and we can't overspend every year because eventually it will catch up with you.
Absolutely. Looking forward to seeing what comes out next. Senator, before we let you go, we've only got a couple minutes left in this segment. You are now running for governor in Alabama. What made you decide to want to leave Washington, D.C.? What do you hope to do in Alabama?
Well, I'm a builder. I coached football forever, and I really enjoy putting things together and watching it grow. And being a CEO or a governor of a state, it's pretty much like being a head coach. You hire all your people around you. You do what you want to do in terms of seeing how you can help the people of your state, make it grow, bring in and recruit manufacturing, get better jobs, improve your education. And so after being up here 6 years of just voting on nominations is pretty much what we do most of the time. You don't have a big, beautiful bill, but ever so often. So I can do more good back in my home state of Alabama of being the governor, being the CEO, putting a group of people together that can make our state better and even run over into the rest of the country. So I'm looking forward to that. President Trump is all for it, and I'm excited. But I've got another year and a half here, and I want to finish strong as being a senator up in my first term.
I'm going to go ahead and pause that there. Let me click on this Rumble link and show you that this video does come from Liberty Sentinel, which is Alex Newman's channel. I'm following the channel. I've given it a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's jump back here and move on with Charlie Kirk. And incidentally, I thought that was great information from Alex Newman and Senator Tuberville. I had the indication that this was just a beginning, just a base. I mean, you can't get everything at once. You're talking about Washington, D.C., and people are so sensitive there. If you cut $1 from their district, they're going to be bent out of shape. So this was the beginning. I hope that they continue on and move forward with this and actually start cutting into the deficit, the debt that the United States has. $1 trillion in interest a year. And of course, the Federal Reserve, the Treasury, Federal Reserve, won't cut the interest rates because they kind of like getting $1 trillion a year for money that they don't even own. Okay? Money that they just generated out of thin air and then loan it and make the taxpayers pay $1 trillion in interest when they actually have nothing invested at all. Okay, but whatever. That's the way it works. I've heard rumors that Donald Trump's going to try to do something with that too if he lives long enough and he doesn't get these Democrats to stab him in the back or rhino Republicans and things don't get quirky and we lose control of the House in 2028, or 2026, sorry. Okay, Charlie Kirk, we are being gaslit by our government about Epstein files. Okay, that's another thing. I don't like it that this information was kind of wish-washy and, oh, well, we don't have anything. And then, of course, it always goes back to, well, what the hell did you arrest Jeffrey Epstein for then? If you don't frickin' have anything, I don't get it. I do not get it. Okay, but let's see what Charlie Kirk has to say. Let's jump over here.
Joining us now is Liz Wheeler on Blaze TV, and she is the host of the Liz Wheeler Show. Liz, great to see you. Liz, I wanted to have on the program because I believe you can articulate and channel some of the frustrations that the base and the audience is feeling right now. What is your perspective, your take on the current Epstein situation?
Hi, Charlie. Thanks for having me on the show. This has been an unforced error due to choices that Attorney General Pam Bondi has made. And listen, let's go back to that day in February at the White House for a second. I was among those who was invited to the White House that day and given those infamous white Epstein binders. That's actually not why we were invited to the White House. We were invited, a really cool initiative from the White House. They invited a bunch of new media personalities, conservative commentators, independent journalists. And they told us, listen, we're not going to be rewarding the mainstream media who are just propagandists for the opposition who lie and smear and try to take down President Trump. Instead, we're going to be giving access to you, independent truth seekers who are actually committed to reporting honestly. And that's what we spent the day doing. We spent the day meeting with high-level Trump administration officials, with the president himself, the vice president, his cabinet secretaries. And it was an incredible experience. During that visit, we met with Attorney General Pam Bondi for about 15 minutes. And as part of that visit, or as part of that meeting, she gave us those Epstein binders. And of course, our first reaction, I mean, you look at that cover sheet and you think, wow, the most transparent administration in history. That's what the cover sheet said. Epstein files phase 1. We were all like, oh my goodness, what is this? Well, the Attorney General made it very clear up front that, this binder does not contain the juicy, dirty details that we might have expected. She said, actually, when I got into office, I requested the Epstein files, and this is what was put on my desk by the FBI. And I thought, that seems strange. That doesn't seem like the complete Epstein files. So she said, she was going to release those documents anyway, even though there was nothing new in them, when a whistleblower called her and said, actually, the SDNY is hiding truckloads of documents from you, subverting the president, subverting the attorney general, subverting the American people. And so she gave us, at that time, at the White House, in that meeting, she gave us the letter she had written to Kash Patel, the director of the FBI, demanding that those documents that the SDNY was allegedly hiding be delivered to her so that she could release them to the American people. And so that, of course, I mean, everyone remembered that infamous day in February when those photos emerged of us carrying those binders. And I think I was on your show shortly thereafter explaining, there was a botched embargo that day where photos of us holding those binders leaked, but we had agreed with the White House that we wouldn't break the story of the SDNY hiding those documents until after President Trump had met with the UK Prime Minister. But since those photos leaked, it ended up appearing bad optics, like we were gatekeeping and engaging in clickbait. And it was a really nasty situation from a PR standpoint. But one of the things that I haven't talked about until this week, and the reason I haven't talked about it, I'll detail in a moment, is during that meeting with the Attorney General at the White House, she actually bragged about creating that cover sheet. You can see the binder that's on the screen. She said she made that. She made that paper that said the most transparent administration in history, and she was proud of this, Charlie. She was proud of making that document. So we fast forward to Sunday evening when the Department of Justice posts this memo that says, actually, there's no Epstein client list. There's no blackmail operation. Epstein definitively killed himself. There's no homicide or foul play involved here. And you're not getting any more of these documents. And I think the collective feeling of many of President Trump's base is, what? What are you talking about? The Attorney General was on Fox News just a couple months ago saying the client list is on my desk for review. She then, gave us this not just the Epstein binder, but the letter to Kash Patel saying that there are more documents, truckloads of the really dirty, juicy stuff, photos and lists and all of this. And it suddenly became very hard to square her behavior and her actions that day in the White House, the day she gave us those binders, with this memo that she received from the American people. And the reason that the American people are having such a visceral reaction to this, the reason that people are so angry is because we voted for justice when we voted for President Trump. We voted for not just memory holding the abuse that was inflicted on us by the Joe Biden administration, by the deep state swamp creatures in the FBI who called parents domestic terrorists because we didn't want our kids learning about the transgender ideology in school. The FBI that arrested people because we dared to say, hey, something fishy happened during President Trump's 2020 presidential election, or we don't want the transgender ideology and critical race theory being indoctrinated. Something was weird about the origin of COVID. We were vilified and demonized, and the government was weaponized against us. And we voted for President Trump because he promised justice. And this does not seem like justice. What it feels like to the American people, it feels like we have this evidence, these anomalies when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein and what appears to be a government cover-up. We have this evidence before our eyes, and then we're being told by government officials, some of whom we like, some of whom we trust, but nonetheless, we're being told by government officials that we should discount and ignore what we're seeing with our own eyes and instead believe them. And they're telling us things that contradict the evidence that we've seen. And people don't like that. People don't want to be told by government officials, ignore what you're seeing and believe us, even though we're not providing you any evidence to substantiate our positions. The simple fact of the matter is Pam Bondi said she had the client list on her desk and she promised to release it. And then she didn't do it. And that's problematic. People don't like when politicians promise transparency and then don't deliver.
So the audience and the base is right on par with you. They're following your tempo. So then I have multiple questions. Let me just ask you this one. What could make this right in your estimation?
Yeah, that's a good question because a couple of things could make this right. First of all, I think the American people voted for President Trump because we trust that he does deliver on his promises. He's always delivered on his promises, and we know he's going to keep doing that. So we expect justice to be served, and justice for COVID, the origin of COVID, and the lies we were told about the COVID vaccines and the lockdowns. We want justice for January 6th and the pipe bomber. We want justice for the Russiagate lies that were inflicted upon President Trump and his supporters early on in the first Trump administration. We want justice for the phony Ukraine impeachment. There's something that we often say on my show, on the Liz Wheeler show. We say we want perp walks and jumpsuits, not because we're vindictive, not because we want revenge, not because we want to target our political enemies, but because true justice means accountability for the people who committed crimes against us. And in order to have accountability, there needs to be indictments. There needs to be perp walks and jumpsuits. So job number one to make this right is just show us that you're committed to delivering the justice that we voted for. And to be honest, this should be somewhat easy because there were a lot of crimes that were committed against us. And I know President Trump feels those crimes deeply because he was often standing between us and those who are trying to assault him because they're trying to assault us.
So
that's thing number one.
Really quick. No. I that's great. I want you to finish that thought, but I have to interject because we only have a minute and a half remaining. Can you add some detail or just some contextualization? Because some people not a lot, not necessarily in our primary audience, because this actually transcends generational lines in our primary audience, but I'd say in the non-political audience, some people say, no one really cares about Epstein. Can you just contextualize how big of a internet deal this is specifically for those under the age of 40?
Yeah, it is a big deal. I've seen a narrative on X specifically, an allegation that it's only MAGA on X that cares about this. It's not real world MAGA that cares about this. And I believe that that's a misreading of President Trump's base here. And the reason why, there's this story that I love. Country singer John Rich once said that he was having dinner with President Trump, and President Trump asked him, listen, why do people boo at my rallies when I talk about the COVID vaccine? And then he listened while John Rich told him, because, Mr. President, people have been hurt by the jab. And this is another one of those moments. The reason people care so deeply about Epstein and the Epstein files is not actually because they care about Epstein the creep or Epstein the man. It's because they care about justice, because people have been hurt by the deep state. And we view the Epstein files as foundational. It's a litmus test. It's a canary in the coal mine of whether we are actually going to get justice this time, or whether it's going to be another lock her up, but then Hillary Clinton doesn't actually go to jail again. And people feel this very, very deeply, and not just online. This is across generations. Actually, it's not just young people, and it is certainly not just online.
All righty, there you have it, folks. We're
going to find out real.
Okay, so I'm not sure I got the right video here, but let me click on this Rumble link and show you that I am following Charlie Kirk. Okay, I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. And yes, this is something that's really, really weird. I don't get it. You know, as Debbie BS, I hope this is some kind of chess move. I don't know. I don't know. But here again, something is really, really quirky. Time will tell, and hopefully we'll see something that we don't see now. Okay, so let me come back here, and let's move on with Dr. Steve Turley. Xi just lost everything. I wonder what that's all about. Let's go ahead and click on this, open it up. Now, folks, I don't know if you've noticed how I give you a thumbs up partial the way through the video after it starts. And that's not necessarily to give a thumbs up to what they're saying. I'm giving a thumbs up because sometimes Rumble Studio, which is what I'm running my live stream on here, sometimes the audio doesn't come through on the videos that I share. And when I give you a thumbs up, as soon as I start this video, I go over and mute my microphone, and then I unmute my monitor up on the wall that I'm watching. And when I hear the audio come through on the video, I give you a thumbs up. And I look back at the video here, and it's like 45 seconds. So the bad thing about it, if Rumble Studio has some kind of an issue with what I'm sharing here, it takes 45 seconds for me to actually realize that you are not hearing the audio. I can hear everything through my headset, but for some reason, I don't understand why I can hear the audio through my headset, but then again, it's not being transmitted with the video. So if I have an issue with it, as soon as I find out that I'm not getting any audio, I'll come back and try to correct it. So just to give you a heads up on what's going on, keep your fingers crossed. Let's see if we can get some audio on this, because it's great information.
Vanishes from
Get it back to the beginning. Here we go.
Xi Jinping vanishes from public view for 2 weeks. He skips this week's BRICS summit for the first time in 12 years. And rumors of a palace coup erupt in Beijing. At the same moment, President Trump's new reciprocal tariffs slam Chinese exports, driving a 35% collapse in shipments to the United States in a single month. We're going to connect these dots and show why Xi's disappearance isn't just Beijing's problem. It may be the clearest sign yet that Trump's America First strategy is winning on a global scale. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, here to give you the breaking news and analysis that the legacy media is doing absolutely everything they possibly can to hide from you. So you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. This week, leaders from Brazil, India, Russia, and South Africa have been gathering in Rio for the annual BRICS conference. But one world leader's absence is overshadowing the entire gathering. The chair reserved for China's president stays empty. Beijing claims it was just a scheduling conflict. Yet Chinese state media, normally wall-to-wall Xi coverage, went radio silent regarding Xi for the last 14 days. Xi Jinping's last confirmed public appearance was back in June. And even the American press noticed, with one headline calling the absence a surprise no-show that fuels speculation about both BRICS and China's global standing. But this absence goes way beyond global standing, at least for international experts in Beijing watching. You see, the key here is that authoritarian systems like China's, they don't operate by splashing what their leaders are actually doing in their daily papers or headlines. Instead, they use optics. Optics equal strength. It's technically known as virtual politics. Everything public about authoritarian government officials is very carefully choreographed. And what China watchers have grown quite sensitive to are the clues in the choreography. That's how they're able to read and interpret internal CCP politics. The optics are the politics. What you're seeing on the Beijing stage, as it were, gives you insights into the drama that's happening behind the scenes. And we're getting word that party elders are absolutely furious with Xi losing the trade war and handing Trump so much economic leverage. And the key to that fury is watching how the various factions that comprise the CCP act publicly. So, for example, we're seeing military heavyweight Zhang Yujia and Premier Li Chang suddenly subbing for Xi on the world stage. And that tends to indicate that they're the ones who are more and more calling the shots for the CCP. Observers point to a string of purges and disappearances among Xi's closest allies in the military and the government. Defense Minister Li Shangfu, Foreign Minister Qin Gang, they've basically vanished. Generals loyal to Xi have been removed or have died under mysterious circumstances. There are reports that Xi's personal security detail has shrunk, suggesting he's growing increasingly vulnerable. And not just among the Politburo, not just among members of the CCP, but even among the Chinese people themselves.
Hey, gang, if you're a homeowner, you need to listen to this. When was the last time you checked on your home?
I'm going to go ahead and skip through this commercial here on Title Lock. If you want to see the commercial, the link is in the description box below. So go ahead and click on that and watch this commercial.
Circulating among Chinese communities throughout the world that President Xi Jinping has indeed been deposed or is facing imminent removal from power. So these speculations have been intensifying of late since Xi's mysterious disappearance from public view 2 weeks and his unprecedented absence from the BRICS summit. There are health-related speculations centering on claims that Xi may have suffered a stroke or heart attack during a CCP meeting. Observers are pointing to apparent physical changes, including what some are describing as surgical scarring on his head. They're described as subdued appearance during meetings, notably reduced security detail. And when Xi has appeared publicly, it's often been through silent video footage with voiceover rather than direct speech. Again, I think the most significant development involves General Zhang Yuxia. Intelligence suggests Zhang, originally a Xi ally, now backs the resurgent Hu Jintao faction and may control real power. There are reports that extensive military purges have targeted Xi loyalists, including the dismissal of Admiral Miao Hua and up to 39 senior officers. Wang Yang, who's a reform-minded technocrat, previously sidelined by Xi for power purposes, he's reportedly being groomed as a potential successor to Xi. Alternative scenarios include a 3-person leadership system or other Hu Jintao-backed arrangements. So this coincides with China's mounting economic pressures, including slowing GDP growth, youth unemployment at 15%, and a growing national debt. And to make matters worse, the Chinese economy is getting absolutely hammered by Trump's tariffs. Just look at the customs data. Chinese exports to America fell 35% year on year in May, the steepest drop since the first COVID lockdown. In dollar terms, that's roughly $15 billion in lost monthly sales. Trump's deal rolled tariffs down to a baseline 30% for 90 days, yet exporters couldn't recover in time, so manufacturers are already rerouting via Vietnam and Thailand. Total Chinese purchases have dropped nearly 20%. So in short, while the CCP tried to play tough with Trump on trade, the data shows they're the ones bleeding dollars. So this is pretty stunning stuff. I mean, we have to remember, we were told reciprocal tariffs were economic suicide by our own political and economic elite, yet China's export nosedive and the massive U.S. manufacturing uptick say otherwise. The WTO forecasts a 77% plunge in Chinese exports to the United States this year alone, opening the door for U.S. manufacturers as well as our own trade allies to fill the gap. And then what we're noticing too is that a distracted CCP is less aggressive abroad because they've got so many problems internally. Taiwan can breathe a little easier when Beijing's leaders are busy watching their own backs as they're trying to ensure their own survival. So what all of this means is that Beijing observers are going to be keeping their eyes on the various factional leaders within the CCP to see what they're doing publicly. Because again, the optics are the politics in authoritarian regimes. If Xi continues to be in effect hidden with these other military and political leaders publicly prominent over the coming weeks, you can be sure Xi is toast. He got himself cooed, maybe even Epstein. Again, we'll have to see. But something is happening in Beijing right now, something huge. And then the question is what does that mean for geopolitics? Will this new regime be more pro-U.S.? Will be embracing Russia as President Xi has done? What will China's role continue to be in BRICS? Will they pivot more to an American economy, or are they going to continue to decouple themselves slowly but surely away from the West and reconfigure itself more in a Eurasian context? So these are all the key questions that are going to be coming up if and when we learn of Xi's demise. But until then, it does appear that Trump has yet won again, this time staring down a dragon that turned out to be little more than a paper tiger. Fascinating stuff. So let me know what you think. Put your thoughts in the comments down below.
Okay, there you have it, folks. Let me go ahead and click on this Rumble link and show you that this video does come from Dr. Steve Turley. I'm following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's jump back here and move on and see what Doug in Exile has to say. They just got busted. Huh. Well, that seems Eugene Carroll. Okay. Well, let's go, Doug. Let's hear what you have to say. Let me Let me go ahead and get this screen up for you. Okay, and get this back to the beginning. Here we go.
E. Jean Carroll raises her reptilian head to come out against Trump in a recent article we're going to get to at the end, written by liberals. So, all caution. Welcome to Doug at Exile. This is where the happy patriots are. I try and give you guys kind of where the culture is going. And so when Kathy Griffin, she's the one who held up the bloody head of Trump in a artwork. When Kathy Griffin, this is like Trump derangement central. It's like going into an insane asylum. Has E. Jean Carroll on as a guest. I like checking in on it. So welcome. Hope you guys find this as strangely funny, these two lunatics, as I do. Let's watch.
People think I'm tinfoil hat because I don't think he won in a free and fair election this time. No, I'm going to take a hit for that, and I understand.
You're going to take a hit for that because that is election denialism. And we were told back in 2020 that to deny the election, some of us got whole channels just vanished. There's whole talent on YouTube that got vanished for saying exactly what Kathy Griffin just now said, that you're undermining democracy when you say that there's something fishy about the election. She didn't find anything fishy in 2020 with Biden getting more votes, 8 million more votes than any other candidate has in the history of elections. But she finds it's odd now when Trump completely smears them after, Biden running a giant land lie campaign, barely being able to walk and communicate. And America realized that all the media was lying to them in the biggest cover-up. While they released 11 million illegals across the border and told you they weren't doing that the border was secure, they said that inflation was down when it was up. They've only bold-faced lied to you, and now suddenly Kathy Griffin wants us to believe her as a truth teller. I just find this interesting. And then E. Jean Carroll, we're looking at her on the right. She's got a cowboy boot in the window there and her collection of who knows what eccentricities.
But that's just my humble opinion. I don't trust the Elon connection. I have my suspicions, and yet at the tender age of 64, I never thought I would say something, and I know that sounds crazy, but I just had to put that out there because I can't resist getting in trouble.
Well, there's a wave of people who agree with you.
Yeah, they're the fellow inmates in your asylum. This is E. Jean Carroll about the group of people who agree with them that the Trump election was illegit. We're going to find out. This is like the dossier. This is the psychological profile of these kinds of people.
That's why I'm sort of saying it out loud now, because I look, I'm not a conspiracy theorist.
Yes, you are.
But I don't, something about him winning every swing state, all 7.
You're getting a lot of agreement.
It's going to the Democrats. Something about it doesn't sit right with me, but I also don't know if we'll really find out anything in my lifetime.
Okay. I guess no one can find out the truth about any of this stuff. All I did was, so in this new statement, she's claiming that there's evidence that right after her incident with Trump, this is E. Jean Carroll, right after her incident with Trump, that there's a claim that he went and met with Epstein. So I just ran that claim through Grok and asked it. So I'll show you the question I asked and I'll show you the answer Grok gave. Is there evidence beyond E. Jean Carroll's statement that confirms Trump met Epstein days after the alleged Bergdorf-Goodman assault, which is what the entire lawsuit with E. Jean Carroll was about? And here's what Grok says. E. Jean Carroll claimed in her book, Not My Type, that Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump ran into each other a few days after the alleged assault at Bergdorf-Goodman. In 1995 or 96, E. Jean Carroll isn't sure which year, and that Trump shared details of the incident with Epstein. However, there's no independent evidence beyond Carroll's one statement to confirm this specific meeting or conversation occurred. No court documents, witness testimonies, or other records from Carroll versus Trump trial or related sources directly corroborate this particular claim about a post-assault meeting between Trump and Epstein. By the way, if this was useful in the court to specify a date, why wouldn't you bring up this as part of her testimony in the lawsuit? So she knew better than to even bring this up before a judge under oath. While Trump and Epstein were known to have associated in the 90s, including attending events together, no specific evidence ties them to a meeting in the days following the alleged assault. Carol's account in her book and related post on X are the primary sources for this claim, but they lack external verification. One thing that E. Jean Carroll knows that all of the right-wing influencers learned is you just put Epstein in any quote on X and you get clicks and you get paid money. So that's what I believe is our motivation on this story. Here's the New Republic. Under politics, E. Jean Carroll speaks and she's throwing darts all across the Trump world. Joe Tacopina was disgusting, Alina Habba, deliciously arrogant. Plus, what she'll do with all that money if Trump ever pays it to E. Jean Carroll. Here's what she says she's going to do with the money. This is going to be also kind of funny. In the 6 years since she first wrote that real estate scion, Donald Trump slammed her against a wall in the mid-90s and touched her bad in the department dressing room. By the way, this is actually what Tara Reid accused Joe Biden of, and no Democrat was interested in that story. E. Jean Carroll has been reduced, as every woman stepping up to charge the R word, to a caricature of sexual essence. Is she pretty, hot, attackable? Not my type, said the president when asked about her story in 2019, even though in a disposition shown a photograph of her, he risibly confused her with another ethereal blonde, his second wife. But reductio ad whatever, this is poorly written, I'm sorry. One of the promises made and kept before entering politics, mandating higher heels and smaller bikinis was what Trump said for women in his beauty pageants. By the way, that's the only reason why men ever watched beauty pageants. Besides Trump megaphone for personal insults, Carroll has had to confront the victim label that is so distorting to a woman's self-image. I think women are much stronger than that. And that afflicts any woman who accuses a predator, whether president or janitor. She could have accused him when right around the event happened, and they would have had to have lifted the statute of limitations to allow her to accuse him after he decided to run for president. She didn't do that. Let me get down to the meaty quote of her own observation. The book, it opens with a scene in which Trump lawyer Alina Habba is demanding that Carroll list all her former lovers. She studies Habba's Chanel suits and Chanel suits and colossal diamond ring, noting that her husband is suing the jeweler over the cost. She recounts how Trump lawyer Joe Tacopina looked her in the eye and suggested she not only hates men, but abominates men. She was musing about the amount of Trump iron it took to build such a sweaty, bull-like neck. These are such weird details. It's hard to even read this article. Let me try to find what she would do if she got her money down here. Here she ends the whole article with the question, what are you going to do with the money if and when Trump pays up? That's wishful thinking. I don't believe she's going to get a dime. Still hasn't gotten a dime. Carol, I'm going to give it all away to causes he hates. And she has said that she is going to give it away to some causes that Trump is fine with. Anyways, I think it's delicious that she has not gotten a dime. Do you believe E. Jean Carroll gets one dime from this? She's still holding out. It could still get appealed. I believe it will be appealed.
Okay, there you have it. Doug in Exile. All right, I thought that was just some interesting information I wanted to drop on you. As you can see, this video does come from Doug in Exile. I am subscribed to his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, we've got a little extra time here, so I thought I'd give you a bonus down here. I want to slide down here and share some information from Wendy Bell. Timing is everything. Okay, I've kind of set this up here just in case I did have some extra time. So let's go ahead and click on this and see what Wendy has to say. This is right after her introduction and her Pledge of Allegiance.
You know, we got a little heat. Well, I got a little heat yesterday for expressing my ire with this whole Epstein case cover-up. You have to admit, it is one of the most poorly executed cover-ups ever. But I wanted to start today's program and say something to you that I think is important. I believe in President Trump. And I am profoundly grateful for the last 10 years that man has put his life on hold so that we could root out the sources of corruption that we know exist in the deepest, darkest places in the DC Beltway. I can't imagine the conversation he had with Melania or his children. He had no reason to get involved in running for office, save for one: love of country. He didn't need the ego boost. He didn't need the corner office. He didn't need the nameplate on the door. Dude was already a billionaire, a household name, a television personality, a focal point of New York and now Florida, a man who had done so much good that you and I know nothing about. But you get little bubbles of it here and there. And he knew something was very wrong in this country. And he was bold enough to go down that golden escalator and say, I'm willing to step into the crosshairs, quite literally, because this country is worth fighting for. Profoundly grateful. Donald Trump has been nothing but transparent to us, and I believe him. They gunned for him well before he even could get settled into 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. They wiretapped him. They surveilled him. And when they couldn't come up with dirt, they made it up. And now, Brennan, Comey, others, hopefully, will be held accountable. And then they tried to kill him. What this man has done has been nothing short of jaw-dropping. He has exposed, by putting himself as almost the bait in the trap, he has drawn out the dirtiest, darkest, scummiest people out there so that you and I could see how the system works and we could make decisions based on our observations. You don't gun for a man. You don't have 29 women come out of the woodwork and allege sexual misconduct and rape. You don't go after a guy and impeach him twice if he's not right over the mark. You don't go to him with 4 indictments and charge him criminally. 91 charges. You don't create a trap so that the people who support him most staunchly get ensnared in it, prosecuted by it, and thrown in prison because of it, unless he's over the mark. Timing is everything. And now is not the time. That is what President Trump said when he was answering that reporter's question. It was abrupt. It was the first time in my memory of this man that he didn't answer someone's question. He was putting it out to the world. I got the goods. But me sharing with you the goods makes the goods less useful for what I have coming up next. That is what I believe. Timing is everything. There's no doubt names, people who are involved, people with whom and countries with whom President Trump is at present negotiating. There is some gamesmanship going on. I trust him. And in this world, that is like gold. I say to you, timing is everything. Because today happens to be the 1-year anniversary of my mom's death. And so I look at everything that normally I would get fussy about. that I might rage a little about on this show with you. And yet it all becomes distant when I have such a big thing on my heart and in my mind. We didn't expect my mom to die that day. We didn't expect her to fall. And I certainly didn't expect that phone call from my dad at 4:45 in the morning. But I knew there was only one reason my phone would ring at that time. And my life changed forever. Timing is everything. I'm going to give President Trump, and I encourage everybody to as well, the space, the time, and the grace that he has deserved, that he has earned, that we owe to him. The one person, quite frankly, in a hell of a long time, who hasn't let us down. No? And it was almost as though that gruff and abrupt, almost bumbled response to the reporter, who rightfully asked about Epstein and why they wanted to close everything down. I think Donald Trump was projecting not just to we, the people, not just the Americans, not just MAGA Americans who created him, but to all of the players in the world. See, because by saving this beautiful experiment we call America, by making sure that the next generation is stronger and smarter and more prepared than those today, Donald Trump is sending a message to the world, a message to the darkness, because there is an ever-present battle between good and evil. And what he's saying is, don't even think about it, because I know, I'm watching, and I will fight back. So to Mr. President, thank you. Thank you for the peace deals. Thank you for the strike in Iran. Thank you for the transparency. Thank you for the cabinet meetings. Thank you for the videos. Thank you for all of the ways in which you have been accessible to us, because we are an emotionally broken people. Never forget what they've done to us. This president wants his legacy to be the glue that puts all of it back together in gold. When we come back on the Wendy Bell radio program.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and pause that there. I wanted you to hear that. I shared some information from Wendy. Let me just go ahead and get this out of the way. Click on the Rumble link here and show you that this video does come from Wendy Bell Radio. I'm following her channel. I've given her a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, now the thing is, I shared information from her yesterday, and she seemed to be pretty upset about this whole Pam Bondi thing and this information released out, and there's no Epstein file. And I was confused also. I asked the question, okay, well, if there's no information, then if there's nothing there, then why was he even arrested? Why was he in jail? But not once did you hear me criticize Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, or Donald Trump, because I don't know what is behind the scenes. They have a lot more information than I do. I know it's frustrating. I, just like Debbie BS and the rest of you out there, want to see some people held accountable. I mean, what they've done to this country and what they've done to people, it's amazing that they can do this and not suffer any consequences. And I'm going to go back to the same thing with the election fraud and the election tampering. People need to be held accountable. If not, they're just going to continue to do it again over and over. And if you get by with it, why not? Huh? All right. Well, let me get back here to the description box and remind you that these videos come directly from the producer's channel. Okay? I don't get any commissions or royalties for sharing this information out. All the links to their videos and to their channels are right down here in the description box. I'm giving full credit where credit is due. I'm just sharing this information to you, just kind of putting it together in a nice, neat little package to share out to you. And hopefully you'll pass this on to others. Okay, we've got some comments here, so let me go ahead and copy these, or live chats rather. Let me go ahead and copy these chats into, if I can do it, here we go. Copy it and put them into a comment because I wanted to keep the live chats permanent with this video, simply because the chats will kind of disappear when the live stream is over. I want to do a refresh on this. Okay, pause that. Here, close that up. Okay, I've had 121 people watch this video. I've got 18 people watching right now, and I've got 6 thumbs up. So if I could get 12 of you to slide down here and give me a thumbs up, that would be fantastic. I'd greatly appreciate that. Okay, again, these 4 videos that I shared with you are videos that I've posted on Murtec.com. I've got over 55 videos here on Murtec.com that I share directly from the producer's channel. Like Alex Newman, this is the video I shared with you from him. Doug in Exile, right down here. Dr. Steve Turley, the information I share. Charlie Kirk. So all this information that I've shared with you is information that I've posted on Murtec.com. And again, these videos come directly from the producer's channel. If you click on one of these links, just like I did on Wendy Bell, you click on that link, it's going to take you right to her video. So here again, this is just a format that I put together. I call it your one-stop shop for no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth. But in this 1-hour podcast that I have, I don't have time to share all of it. That's why I have my daily news wrap-up. Excuse me. My daily news wrap-up that I'm going to start about 9:30. So I do want to thank you for spending your time with me right now. Sorry. Hopefully, I'll get to see you again later. And may God bless.